Hey everybody, welcome to our Unit 4 introduction video here, and you can see in the header that this time we have actually 4 chapters, so 4 chapters for Unit 4. So lots of fours there, and this is the only unit we're going to have 4 chapters to contend with here, but we've got 4 of them, chapters 6, 12, 5, and 7. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first chapter here, chapter 6, which is all about birth control. We're going to talk about a lot of things in this chapter, and one of the first things we're going to examine is the really out of control teen pregnancy rate that we have here in the United States. You're going to learn that we have one of the worst rates of teen pregnancy in the industrialized Western world right now. Definitely not a feather in our cap. And you also are going to learn a lot about birth control itself. We're going to define it and how we actually measure and actually know that a particular method of birth control actually works. And so we're going to be taking a look at how it may fail. So big fail this time. And so those failure rates we're going to examine for each particular method that we're going to examine as we take a tour of particular methods of birth control. There's many, like a catalog of them that are covered there in your text. We're not going to cover all of them, at least in the lecture there, but I'm going to cover a select number of them, maybe ones you've heard about there, and talk about usually their failure rate, along with how they work and how they don't work there, and also the risk that they may put you at as far as contracting a sexually transmitted infection. And so there's some methods that are certainly known as fertility awareness. There's some that are known as barrier methods. Some that are known as, such as condoms there, if you will. You all have heard about chemical control methods like the birth control pill or just the pill. Sterilization. So I'm going to talk about some particular methods within each of those major categories of birth control there, if you will. So the pros and the cons of some of those methods there, if you will. And also we're going to take a look at the controversial topic of abortion, the different types of abortion and when and why they're performed there and the consequences of those medically and psychologically. And also, the end of the chapter is all about how to choose a particular birth control method that is a good fit for you and or you and your partner there. They even have this really great assessment tool. It's sort of like a little questionnaire you can take to help you decide and narrow down based on your criteria, of comfort level, spontaneity issues, cost, access, etc. there, what method might work best for you given your particular circumstances. So some pretty good stuff there. In this next chapter here in our unit, chapter 12, we're going to be changing the topic a little bit here. It's all about love and relationships. So what does psychology have to say about these things? Well, actually a lot. And this is actually part of my area in psychology. I'm a social psychologist, so we spend a lot of time talking about these sorts of things when it comes to our human relationships here. So there's different types of love that have been examined in psychology. Traditionally, they're referred to as passionate love and companionate love. Okay, we're going to talk about the characteristics of each of those. We're also going to spend some time examining this pretty cool stuff here, what actually leads to attraction, what gets us interested in somebody else in the first place. There's some really interesting and I would imagine familiar items here. For example, the idea, do looks count very much or not much at all? It depends, you're going to see. We're also going to take a look at how do relationships develop, that is, how do they grow? And once they're in place, what are some things that seem to keep them going and prevent them from becoming doomed to failure? Because that happens too. There's all kinds of theories around that too we're going to examine in terms of what makes a relationship work, and these are all tested in psychology there. We're also going to be taking a look at, well, what do you have to bring to the table as a potential partner? Some prerequisites. You've heard of prerequisites for your courses. Well, there seem to be some prerequisites to be in a relationship, and we've all probably been involved with somebody in our lives that, well, they're just not relationship material. They're just not ready for whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons that kind of put them on the, reject list. And maybe we've been on that reject list ourselves, at least in somebody else's eyes for some of those reasons. So we're going to go ahead and examine those. And we're also going to be taking a look at some, really distressing stuff here too. That is ending a relationship. What are some things that basically just mean that it's time for Splitsville, and how we cope with that. Because it's certainly one, if you've ever been through, a quote breakup of a serious long-term relationship, it can be a real devastating thing to go through. And so we're going to talk about some issues around that. Our next chapter in this section is chapter 5, sexually transmitted infections and related diseases. And so we're going to go ahead and define what we mean by STIs. That's what they're called today. You may have heard about STDs or VD, even going way back there, but we call them now infections because they are contagious. You can catch these. And so we're going to talk about some general information about STIs and, just some mythology around those things there too. Also examining the real scary possibility of being asymptomatic. That is, you don't show any signs or symptoms of being infected. And of course, that means you can pass it on to others. Or if you're with somebody who doesn't show any signs, they can pass it on to you. We're going to take a look at how STIs are generally categorized into two major groups here. Those that are caused by bacteria, for example, gonorrhea and chlamydia, I'm sure you've heard of. We'll talk about those in our drill down into those types. And then we're going to take a look at those that are caused by a virus. They're viral things like hepatitis, HIV disease, herpes. All those are viral sorts of infections there. But we are going to do a drill down into both types and talk about real specific types of STIs. I just named off a few there. We're going to take a look at, along with that, sex differences that go along with some of these infections and some of the symptoms and the impact long-term they can have upon your reproductive anatomy, which isn't pretty. We're also going to take a look at the possibility of fatality for some of these, and also the impact upon pregnancy. And we're going to round up the chapter there, taking a look at safer sex practices, to put you at less risk. We call that harm reduction these days. And also what to do if you think yourself or your partner may be infected with one of these STIs. Now our last chapter here, our fourth chapter, is chapter 7 on pregnancy and childbirth. And do make note that we're going to be very selective in the content we are going to cover in this chapter. I'm not really going to hold you responsible for the material on pregnancy itself and the process of childbirth there. What we are going to focus on basically is the impact of childbirth and pregnancy upon sexuality. And so we're going to take a look at how having children and all the responsibilities that go along with child rearing, including the sharing of chores in doing that or the failure to do so, how that can have an impact upon one's relationship there too. If you've been there and done that, that cannot be a fun situation if your partner is someone who doesn't want to kind of give you some help there, so it can really spell some problems for your relationship. But that's all we're going to cover in this unit there. And so again, if you see any embedded reference in the lectures or links in the unit there to some external websites, do take some time to take a look at those. They're usually very short articles or short video clips there I think you might find really interesting, if not fascinating at times, if I can say that Spock-like word there. And I hope you do enjoy those, because I do try to find things, again, that are really to the point and interesting and really timely as well. So, check those out. And I will see you in the lecture videos.